That's my only thing that I wanted to share.
Thank you, and it was addressed because we did scratch that out, so if this amendment is passed, those numbers would not be in there.
Great.
Thank you for the question. Dan?
Dan Handelman again with Portland Cop Watch. I actually read this a little bit differently, I think, perhaps than what's being discussed. That it says PCCEP asks the mayor's office to keep this in mind. You can't require the mayor's office to do it. You're not changing the ordinance, you're not changing the city policy, you're just saying this is what you are recommending. So I thought that was the compromise right there, using the word ask, so that it doesn't matter. I mean, the goal is to have 3 people total and 1 person with clinical experience, but that is your value statement. And then similarly, the second part that you didn't really talk about, where when you are voting to recommend an alternate, you will consider the need to maintain that balance, but it's not requiring you to do it. So I think that it already sort of addresses the concerns that have been raised, and I don't know if you need to amend it based on that. I just also want to add that on the agenda, which I didn't find until today, I gather it was posted sometime earlier, but we didn't get a new email about it. I don't know if anybody else did. Because we got an initial email saying the agenda will be posted. I didn't get anything about the current agenda. When I clicked on the link to this, it went to a page with a bunch of documents on it, and this wasn't one of the documents. So I hadn't seen the proposed bylaw until I got to the meeting tonight.
We've taken note of that. Thank you for that. Other comments on the amendment? Okay. Yes, sir. You got 2 now.
So, I wanted to make a comment about being cut off and you interrupting me. I don't know exactly how to pronounce your name. Lakay. Akiana. You seem to have cut me off a few times. Like at the last meeting, we had 3 minutes to speak. 2 minutes into it, you're telling me you have 1 minute left. Then I go on another 30 seconds. 30 seconds left. And I noticed that you let all these other people go overtime, and sometimes even let them do 2 rounds of speaking. But someone like me, who's actually been targeted by the other group, Coab Cocal, and was used to derail the DOJ settlement, scapegoated, gaslighted, and all the other stuff, called a white supremacist by the former Coab guy, Bud
I'm sorry, what does
Pulis.
this have to do with the amendment that we're
What this has to
discussing?
do is with this general body.
With the
and
discussion in the amendment
so
right now,
this
so
is,
I'm just curious why we're talking about something else.
Why is he
I'm
being
talking-
interrupted?
I'm talking about something that's real. I don't care about all your amendments. I care about being disrupted, derailed, having my train of thought disrupted. I do have mental illness. I get my housing through Cascadia. I don't, sometimes I got a lot going on in my mind and I'm trying to say a bunch of stuff and I'm trying to do it in a timely fashion. And when you have someone telling you 30 seconds, 2 minutes, blah, 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 and then they're treating me with bias, I think that's an issue. So if you can't do your job in an equitable, non-biased manner, I know you're part of a group, Word is Bond, and you're all about fostering good relationships between the police and whatever. Well, you know what, I've dealt with a lifetime of stuff, like my parents' store being burnt down by the chief of police's son and the mayor's son in the early 70s. My parents were hippies and owned head shops, so, so I'm just saying, like, don't derail me. It's okay to tell me, like, you're going over and blah, 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 but can you, like, at least not treat me in a biased manner?
Absolutely.
Thanks.
And just to respond to that, I think, I 100% hear what you're saying, and I think what would help in that is if you would direct and make your statements, a little more to the point. What and you know, there's been some feedback even tonight of just like some questions as to what is the purpose of your statement, and I think if you can get to that, that would be helpful.
Well, I don't think this,
Well,
I
can I
think this
finish
should
my
be
statement?
more of a community forum, and you should be able to ask some questions, and you
Absolutely.
shouldn't always have to like stick to the agenda, or it just makes it like a controlled opposition PR gimmick game, where you can't, it just makes it as pathetic as the community involvement at City Hall with Ted Wheeler, and he's the one who picked half the people on this board and approved everyone, so, and he's obviously not here, so he just cares about things from a PR gimmick and political thing. That's why he's playing both sides of the fence. That's why he's like, you know, 1 minute letting the police treat protesters with bias, shoot flashbang grenades at people, and then he doesn't have a comment when there's serious brain injuries and stuff. But then he all jumps all over this text message stuff, which is all actually just a bunch of bull. I mean, it's really like all he's doing is playing both sides of the fence. He's trying to act like there was some major discrepancy and bias, but you know, I've looked at both the emails between Naya and the leftist protesters, and actually I found him to be pretty chummy with both sides, and then the mayor's acting like telling someone that they have a warrant they need to take care of is like this big egregious thing, but the reality is people are told every day in the streets that they have a warrant they need to be take care of. So
What's your name?
So he's totally just derailing everything, and
I'm hearing you. I'm 100% hearing you. But this, where you're going on right now, is exactly the thing that's derailing it. Like when your original statement that you just said, I acknowledge it. And what I was gonna get to saying before you did interrupt me is, if you do need an extra minute when you speak, we will be more than happy to give you that. What we ask in return is that you try and stick to the topic. Right now, we're in the middle of an amendment, and it's getting close to 8:30. And we
well,
want
it's cool. I just wanted to say a few things because
And I
think that
100% hear you on that.
I think there needs to be more of a community voice, because you know, when it's not that open to the community, and that's probably why a lot of people from the community aren't here, and you only have a small number of people.
Right, and so what we're
That's
gonna do
the
going
reason.
forward is we will give you those extra 30 seconds to a minute, but we do also ask that you keep your points to the point, your comments to the topic at hand, which we're at the amendment, and I think we're ready to vote on that. If there's any other quick comments, I think there was one to the gentleman directly behind you, and we'll take that and then we will vote.
Thanks so much. Sorry, just a second.
So if it's just gonna go the same way Cokel did, it's just gonna be another failure, so you might as well just end it now. You know, it's all gonna be a PR gimmick.
To the last gentleman's point, it may be worth, again, I don't know any of the background or context on this, it may be worth having someone who is professionally trained in empathy and conflict present at these meetings to work in a constructive way with these types of conflict scenarios. Sometimes a lot of professional skill can assist with these sorts of conflicts, and it can still be tricky and difficult. As far as I want to say, I really appreciate the amendment as it's being considered. So I have a clarifying question about the difference between publicly identify and identify. I think publicly identify is self-explanatory, But so if that's not the case, then what does it mean under the proposed revision to identify? For instance, will that be, when a person applies to this, does that mean that they must, or that they're encouraged to seek applicants who identify in their application, which may be kept private and confidential, that they have a lived experience of mental illness? So what does the term identify mean in this circumstance? Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's a very good question. The goal behind removing publicly was, as you were indicating, to avoid a situation where we would be requiring people to put it in a public forum that they had this particular lived experience, which can be sensitive. I think that the applications are also public documents, so it wouldn't be a situation in which they would necessarily be required or necessarily even asked to disclose, although, as I recall, there was an opportunity to mention this in the application process, so people are still free to do that. I think one of the goals is to make sure that we are getting as much of a cross-section of the community as possible, and that we are reaching out to people of every lived experience when we are seeking an alternate pool. That means engaging with all sorts of corners of the city, all sorts of organizations that can spread the word about the need for people to apply and serve on this board and get that diversity of experience. That's the goal.
I think it's really important to recognize, and when you say require, I don't see require anywhere in here. And so I think it's important to recognize that I'm not requiring somebody to do this. I'm just saying that we should have a healthy amount of this, because this is what the settlement agreement, which is a narrow version of what we're doing, is about. So,
Right.
Great.
thank you.
Okay, we're gonna move to a vote. We'll just go right down the list. Just a simple yes or no based on the friendly amendment to strike some piece of this. And we are gonna start with Rachel.
Yes.
Sebastian?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Lakeisha?
Sorry, did we vote on the original amendment, or we scratched the original?
We scratched it, and we are doing the a friendly amendment, which is scratched out like 4 or 5 words, which I can no longer see, but it takes out publicly the number of people and the word persons, 1 person. It's on.
And Patrick is comfortable with it, then?
Bob Dye is not here. We're gonna go to Sharon.
Yes.
Eden,
Yes.
Andrew,
Yes.
Michelle, Britt,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
and Yolanda.
Yes.
Okay, that is a 10 to. Okay, so that amendment has passed. We have a recommendation 004, which is to move up the release of the annual report. If I can find that. So it just basically says, we recommend PPB prepare a first draft of its 2018 annual report no later than June 2019 to allow PSEP to review and comment in time for PPB to post a report publicly no later than September 2019. This follows feedback from PSEP and from the community. There was not enough time to review that. B, we recommend the 2018 report clearly list PPB's annual goals and priorities, including self-assessment of progress toward meeting these goals. We felt that there was a lot of praise, but there wasn't enough in there of substance as far as things that could be improved. C, we recommend the 2018 annual report includes self-critical information on annual failures and areas of improvement, which basically speaks to what I was just mentioning. And D, we recommend that the 2018 annual report include hyperlinks to applicable information found elsewhere on PPB's website, including statistical data, analysis, news, and revised directives, critical event information, and relevant external reports, i.e. the OIR group's review of officer-involved shootings and the auditor's report on gang enforcement patrol. for this recommendation, we will go, well, we have to open this up to peace of discussion, first and foremost.